Yeah, so everybody, this is Jonathan Young. Hopefully you all know him already. He's the producer behind this incredible Kamigawa official soundtrack. I one day randomly saw a DM from you. We both already followed each other on Twitter, and you said, hey, I'm working on a thing. Would you like to hear about it? You'll have to sign an NDA. I was like, that sounds cool. I was like, yes, I will sign this NDA. Jonathan told me it was all for Magic the Gathering, this new set coming out, Kamigawa, and next thing I knew, we just started chatting. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. The premise that you told me about, you're like, it's Magic the Gathering. It's this new cyberpunk Japanese world. I was like, well, it just so happens I'm half Japanese and I know a lot of Japanese stuff. So let's do this thing.
Yeah. And it was funny. I remember I told you this, but like, I've been listening to Trivium for, oh man, I'm going to date myself here. I've been listening to Trivium since I was in high school, which would have been 2011. I think was when I first started listening to Trivium.
So you were in high school in 2011?
I graduated in 2012 from high school. Yeah,
young man. You're
Jonathan
ageless. You look young, but the beard is hard to tell. You could be 19 or you could be 32.
Yeah, it's the age old metalhead with long hair that looks somewhere between 20 and 40 years old.
Well, dude, it's awesome because I've heard your metal stuff. I'm familiar with your YouTube channel, and it's always been amazing. I was like, man, this guy makes incredible metal, but I had no idea you can do the electronic stuff you do. How long have you been doing this?
I haven't. But I mean, honestly, man, like I've always loved rock and metal music, but I thought to myself, like, man, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get Matt Heafy from Trivium in on this project. But when I saw that you followed me on Twitter, I was like, maybe I'll just DM him and see what happens. Before I got into rock and metal music, I was studying music theory at a music school that I ended up dropping out of because a lot of music schools here in the States are they kind of tell you that they'll teach you how to be a rock star, and then they take hundreds of thousands of dollars of your money. So I dropped out of this music school studying music theory, and what I was doing there was mostly keyboard stuff. I was mostly learning music composition and like jazz stuff. So I have I've been making, I guess, kind of jazz pop music longer than I've been making rock or metal for the most part. And that kind of allows me to just like slip into all these different kind of styles whenever I need to, just because of the sort of piano background. I have just enough knowledge of music production that when I first started this project, I kind of buckled in and did a ton of homework on like the fundamentals of EDM music production. I can't take all the credit because there are many other amazing producers on this project who I was taking notes from as well. But yeah, man, it's one of the most ambitious and big projects that I've ever been a part of. I don't know if I told you this, but when we started this project, we thought there were only going to be like 5 songs.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, we'll try to do 5 songs in January with a couple different musicians, and you and I alone did 5 songs together on this project. I'm so happy. I am filled with joy with how this all.
It's
how
amazing.
All the stars aligned.
I mean, for everybody, and even for the Wizards team that are they're watching this now or who are going to watch the VOD. I don't know if everyone is aware of the lengths that you went through, because originally when you talked to me, I was like, oh yeah, I can mix and master my own stuff, so I'll do this, and I was going to write the songs and put the electronic stuff in. But the next thing I knew, for some like demo tryouts, you already did it, and it sounded so good. I was like, you should do this. But so not only did you like orchestrate and wrangle all the musicians, you also wrote for a lot of them, wrote with them, wrote your parts, and then cut videos, and also did all this other stuff. It's nuts. It's amazing. It's really interesting to finally meet like my true counterpart that does the same amount of stuff. But for this project, you definitely did way more than I did, and it sounds so amazing. But I think that's how it is.
I'm
like,
so humbled
because I hope you don't mind me mentioning, but like I've heard your new stuff. Your solo stuff.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, it's super metal, and it's amazing. It's like incredible. It's like all the fun you love of power metal, but it's serious at the same time. But it's catchy. But the production's amazing. To hear you venture off into what sounds like perfect electronic music, like I got to hear my sister's song yesterday, and that's the best her voice has ever sounded. I've always said she's a better singer than me, but it's the best her voice has ever sounded, and the production is crazy. Like it's there. You already have it. So
thank you, man.
Yeah. I can't wait till everyone hears this stuff.
It's interesting, man, because I've been learning a lot from kind of like my mentors right now in the music industry are Howard Benson and Neil Sanderson, who work with this record label that I'm doing this upcoming album with. And Howard Benson obviously produced, My Chemical Romance, 3 Days Grace, all these legendary bands that he produced. And every time that I work with him, every time that I co-write with his team or co-produce with his team, I'm always like just a sponge, just sucking in as much information and knowledge as I can from all these guys that have so much experience. One of the things that I learned from working with them is it doesn't really matter what, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but like you can kind of use whatever gear and whatever sounds you want as long as you have the ear, as long as you can trust your ear to make it sound good. So there's always like this kind of mental barrier that I feel like many producers have where, for example, with electronic music, a producer might feel like they can't make electronic music because they don't have the right plugins, they don't have the right synthesizers, they don't have the right analog gear or whatever. They'll hit this wall. It's mostly a mental wall because I was telling Matt while we were working on this, I'm doing most of the electronic sounds on this project with stock Logic sounds, which come with Logic Pro, which are actually amazing.
So crazy.
And there's this old Korg synthesizer called the Korg M1. This is a weird little tangent for music producers and musicians, but the Korg M1 is the electric keyboard synthesizer that was used in a lot of Van Halen songs. It was used in in the Seinfeld opening.
That thing. Wow.
It's the actual Seinfeld slap bass is in the Korg M1. So cool. It's one of those old '80s keyboards that has like a ton of different super cheesy sounding voices.
I've got that one right here, but I don't think it's the same one. I don't think it's the M1. But
yeah. So I bought the digital version of the Korg M1, and there's a couple others too, like the TAL. Like a bunch of different Korg, and they're all like $50 each. Like for a plugin, for a music production plugin, that's dirt cheap, and it's a perfectly replicated version of these retro '80s synthesizers, and that's what I used for like all of my basses, all of my big, kind of synthwave chords all come from that plugin.
I wish I talked to you about that stuff before. Like right before I talked to you, I just bought all these things. I bought like, all right, I'm going to go buy everything to make electronic music. I buy all the expensive stuff. And I was like, what did you use? Stock Logic. Oh. And then I started playing with the stock Logic stuff on the triple play thing. And I was like, man, this sounds just as good as the expensive stuff I just bought.
Yeah. Cause like I was clicking through when I kind of took a day to like size up all of the different stuff that I had access to with the plugins that I already had before I started writing for this project. And one of the first things that I found is that like Logic has a perfect replica of like the 808, like, and it's, you can just go, like, it's so easy in Logic. You can just go into the search bar and type 808, and there's like 10 different versions of the 808 that are built into Logic. Then it's just up to,
it's nuts.
It's just up to you, it's just up to you to make it sound good.
Man, I just realized too, I could have been sending you the entire Logic folders instead of stripping down all the plugins and zeroing everything. I hate, like, zeroing everything out sucks. Like, I think that's so annoying, like when you get it sounding good. But what's crazy, when I was watching the videos that you did, I didn't realize. So do you do everything on piano? So you're like fully classically trained on piano.
I wouldn't say classically trained, but I'm trained enough that I know,
you can
like,
compose on it.
Yeah, I know my modes a little bit. I don't know the names of my modes as well as I know the sounds of my modes, but I know my modes. I know, my secondary dominants, all the music theory lingo. I usually will cheat and transpose my keyboard into an easier key that doesn't have as many.
That's what I would do if I could play keyboard.
Yeah.
But instead, I just skip playing keyboard and play keyboard on guitar instead.
Well, but I mean, I can't. I mean, you've been gassing me up a lot. I can't touch you on the guitar, man. Like I don't know, man. I can do chugs, and that's where I live,
feel like
on the guitar.
I've been kind of feel like since doing this, if you and I started some kind of like creative agency for bands where we could like write for them and tell them what to do. If there was like what was it, Mad Men, Don Draper's company.
Yeah.
If the modern day, you and I ran that and bands hired us to make them like hit singles or records or content, that would be us.
It's funny you mention that because I've already been building that like the past 2 months. I've been working.
After doing this, I was like, man, I never thought there'd be like someone else. I was like, man, like we could absolutely work on the same wavelength because we both just it's go 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 go. Yeah. And I like working at that pace. I could tell you do as well. And we make some of our best stuff when you don't have to. Like I find that when you hit that flow state, that's like one of my favorite things in the world. I learned about that semi recently, but where time disappears and you're just in the creative moment. I search for that in everything I do, and I found that in this project, which is really really fun for me. So you mentioned the
Yeah.
concept of like, this is everything I want to do. Like the idea of mixing modern metal, super, super heavy 8 and 9 string guitars with electronic and this like chill singing and the guitar, the Japanese instruments. It was too quick. This all went by way too quick, and it was too
Yeah.
fun. Probably not the same for you with the amount of stuff you've been having to do.
Oh no, it definitely was, man. I mean, I like there were some late nights, but it was amazing, and it feels so good. Because I mean, I don't need to tell you this, but for anybody in the chat, like a couple things that are really incredible about this project in particular. The mainstream music industry does not work on this timetable. Like the mainstream music industry is usually very sluggish at putting out music and producing music efficiently. So it was really a miracle that Matt and I were able to kind of like line up and just go, you know? The way that the internet is right now, a lot of these social media sites, as music content creators, a lot of times it's easy for these sites to kind of want you to pigeonhole yourself. Like if like YouTube, for example, YouTube is my main platform, and YouTube will even tell you if you do something different and not as many people click on it, YouTube will specifically say like, maybe you should go back to doing what you did before. And that sucks because it's like, you know, you kind of get pigeonholed. Like for me, I'm kind of like the metal cover guy on YouTube, but there's so much opportunity and creative potential that I want to explore in making these hybrid genre pop songs and making these, you know, all these different things, where if I were to do that as Jonathan Young on my own channel, it wouldn't get any views because of the way that these algorithms work. And I'm not gonna, you know, feel entitled to ask or expect my fans that came to me for metal to like suddenly, you know, climb on board for something that's totally the opposite of that. So having such an iconic and legendary brand that I have always loved, like Wizards of the Coast, believe in us and trust us to be able to just have some fun and do what we do is just incredible. And it's not every day that opportunities like this come up. So I'm so happy with how this turned out.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I can't wait for people to see all the songs, but particularly like I just didn't expect to find such an incredible, like I knew everything you did. I knew how great all your stuff already was, but I didn't expect to find such a counterpart in that the songs became what they became once you did your spin on it. Once you added your instruments and took the guitar parts that I did and the vocal parts that I did and completely changed it around. I mean, the only other time I've ever done something like that is with the Mike Shinoda thing that I did, where I wrote something, he completely changed it to something else, and that's the same. Like I got that same excitement from when you did this. Like this is nuts, but it makes me really excited to see what else we can do. Like I think when this is out, there's gonna be a demand for, hey, we want more of this. We want more of this style, whatever this style is that we did. It's really cool. I can't wait for I've been so excited for people to hear it and see it, because when I've been tracking stuff and just secretly like not talking about what it is or playing some guitar stuff, I'm like, what is this? It sounds so interesting. Even when I was listening to it outside with my kids, and my kids are like 3. They're 3 and 4 months, 3 years and 4 months. They're like, what is this? Dad, is this you? I was like, yeah, it's me and my friend Jonathan. And they're really, really into it. Really into it. But I'd love to know, can you take me back the story of Jonathan? When did you first start getting into music? When did you first start falling in love with it? And what was that? What was the genre?
I have a very, very musical family. I can't take any credit for getting into music in the first place, because for I'm very, very lucky and fortunate to have a family where we didn't watch football. We pulled out the guitars, you know. That's awesome. My dad was a singer and a choir director for a while and plays a mean fingerstyle acoustic guitar. My mom plays some piano. I have some people in my extended family who could have been professional musicians but took usually some different paths. But, you know, I have a cousin who's a band director. So I've been playing drums since before I could read and write. I've been playing piano since I was 10, guitar since I was 14, and singing with my family for most of my life. So I can't take any credit. I got dealt a very, very lucky hand from childhood.
Hey, man, but you took it and ran with it and made it something good, though.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
And then, you know, as one does in high school, I started, you know, getting into edgy rock and roll music. You know, middle school, high school, I started my first band. Started playing rock music. Went to college for music theory. wanted to be like the next Billy Joel for a while, you know, doing piano, singer-songwriter stuff, and dropped out, went on YouTube one day, and I was like, you know, I'm sick of being a broke kid and living in my mom's basement, and I'm seeing these people on YouTube. I don't know how to get a record deal, but I do know how to make a YouTube video. So that was it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. How old are you at this point?
I started my YouTube channel when I was 19.
Awesome. And how old are you now?
I'm 27.
Awesome.
So it's been like 8 or 9 years now of full-time YouTube.
And you've built a hell of a YouTube. It's super, super impressive.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
That's amazing. Yeah, and the videos that you do are awesome. Like, I mean, even this camera. What camera are you using right now?
This is a Sony A7 III.
It looks very, very good, and the studio looks really good. So I'm trying to like dissect what you've got around
Yeah.
you. What do you got in the room? What are you running right now?
This is I'm not a gearhead. I'm not super deep on gear. I'm more an in-the-box guy. I care a lot more about what plugins I'm running than I do about what gear I'm running. But I have a bunch of random guitars. Actually, I'm working on a deal with Kiesel right now that I'm incredibly excited about, but I don't have all of the guitars yet. I wish I could show you. And then I have some weird stuff I've been adding to my collection. This is a mandocello, which I ordered actually from my home state, Minnesota. It just has that like Viking sound to it. I have a whole bunch of random stuff like that, and I think I can actually switch my camera here and show you the other half of my studio.
I was trying to decipher, not that you have an accent, but I was trying to decipher where you were from by by an accent. I couldn't figure it out.
Yes, I'm from Minnesota.
Awesome, Minnesota. Yeah, one of our touring security guard is from Minnesota. He was a fighter up there, and then we convinced him to get out of fighting and move down here. But when he's around other Minnesotans, they all pick up this super heavy Minnesota accent.
Oh yeah. But Darcy made some bars last night,
Exactly.
and I think the Vikings are going to the Super Bowl.
Yep. If we get you, Andre, and Sarah Dope from Astro together, that's going to be a very, very Minnesotan chat.
Yeah.
Damn, so you got it all, yeah.
There it is.
Drum kit, all the guitars, keyboard.
Yeah. So I have 2 Elise's drum kits that are jerry-rigged together because 2 cymbals is not enough for me.
Yep.
And hurdy-gurdy mandolin.
Oh, dang, got the hurdy-gurdy too.
Yeah, a whole bunch of fun stuff. Yeah, man, it's I'm very, very lucky to have such a YouTube career where I can get all these fun toys.
Awesome, man. And then are you running a PC and a Mac, or are you just doing all Mac?
I have a PC for gaming that I use to do my Twitch dashboard stuff while I'm streaming, and then I have a Mac, and I'm just running a small little Focusrite, and then I have a DI box to clean up my guitar signal, and that's about it.
That's awesome. I wish I met you before I started going like, oh, I need this gear to make it sound good and this gear to make it sound good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great, because that's what I've always said about guitar though. Like I've never said about anything else because I didn't know the other stuff. For guitar, I've always told people whatever you think is good is good. Like there is no right or wrong answer if you like it. Because I remember a lot of people be like, Matt, why are you playing Epiphone? Why aren't you playing Gibson? I was like, well, because Epiphone is affordable and I like this one. But I love that you've got that concept across the board. Because I was going to ask too, like, what keyboard do you use? Because I'm using like a super cheap keyboard that I think it doesn't suffice.
I would always recommend that people use super cheap keyboards. All I ever use on keyboards is the keys and the pitch bend wheel. And that's all I ever use. This is a complete controller, which in a moment of weakness, I splurged on an 88 key complete controller keyboard, and I don't ever use any of the features. I just use the keys and the pitch bend wheel.
That's awesome. Man, that's great.
So it's such an accessibility thing. You know what I mean? Like because I meet so many musicians, like, you've seen the forum posts, you've seen the YouTube comments where there will be these music guys, these music veterans or whatever, who will have this really toxic attitude of like something along the lines of like, well, you know, I'm sure you've seen like if you're not playing on a tube amp, you're not a real guitarist.
Yeah,
or, if you're playing one of those millennial guitar brands, you're not a real guitarist. And that sucks, because then if you're a kid who's got like a $200 Ibanez or something and a Digi guitar pedal or something, you just feel like you're a loser, and then you give up and you don't invest into continuing to play. And I feel like it's such an important message for especially guys like us that are fortunate enough to have a platform like we do, to tell people, and that's the same thing that because I asked Howard Benson right after I met him and started working with him, and I was like fanboying, you know what I mean? I was like losing my mind because I was working with Howard Benson. And one of the first things that I said to him, I called him up and I was like, what plugin should I buy? What gear should I buy? And like, not even exaggerating, his exact words were, it doesn't matter. just figure it out.
That's awesome.
You know, and it's like, wow, okay, it's on me then. I just got to go.
That's so
I
great.
just got to run with it.
That's
So,
awesome, man. That's awesome. The other thing, as we hear your speaking voice, I want to tell everybody too, because for my people who don't know your voice, or maybe for some of the match people who don't know either of us who end up watching this, I love that your singing voice is low. Like, not enough people sing low. I've always sung low, and I've always thought I was supposed to sing high, and just not enough people accent it. Not enough people do it. But yours has this, like, the only term I can get is like molassesy rich bassness is what I feel and hear when you sing. Like the tone, like. It's pretty amazing. So
Thanks,
that's also a cool thing. That's not really a question, just a comment. Like, I think it's just
Thank you.
It's cool. I don't hear that much.
It's funny you say that because up until very, very recently, I desperately wanted to be a tenor. And I feel like there's such a culture and a stigma of that in the music industry where all of the rock stars sing really high. Through the internet and through the chaos and the wild west of internet viral trends and whatnot, I accidentally made peace with my low voice through some of these viral songs, like some of the Lord of the Rings, like Misty Mountains, some of these cover songs, like some of the sea shanties and stuff that are big on TikTok. It feels like bass singers are finally finding a home, and the Disney villain stuff that I've done as well. It feels good, and it feels like for the first time very recently, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna sing low, and that's who I am. That's what I was born with, and you know, that the record label executives who think that that's not marketable can suck it, you know?
I mean, well, it stands out so much too. Like your voice, you're able to pick it out in a lineup of a bunch of people, which is so cool. Yeah, it's awesome. It's funny that we've both done bard songs. We've both done sea shanty things. I didn't even realize that we both have done them. That's really cool. Like there's definitely a lot of parallel universes going on here, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's rare that I feel it. Normally it's like when I talk to other music, like people that are in bands, like strictly bands who don't understand content creation, don't get YouTube, don't get Twitch. They're always like, oh, you do so much. That isn't that exhausting? Is it not fun? But it's super fun. I think you and I have a great time. Yeah, it's like at the end of the day, we're like, we're beat, but that's kind of how life should be. It should be productive in a fun way. And I feel like what you do, like it sounds like you have fun while you do it. And I feel like it sounds like I have fun while I do this as well. And that's such a cool thing that it's like it translates across this project, and this project is all about fun. It's all about something. I never knew I'd ever be able to do something like this, like be able to do some Magic Gathering. I really did collect the cards as a kid. I remember having the little packets, like open them up. Like I would buy it was like pieces of chewing gum. Inside was like lollipop candy. It was like little bite things. So I would always have my mom buy me those and Magic the Gathering packs at the same time. They'd have them at the local toy store or at the gas station. But I don't have the cards are gone. Maybe they're in my parents' attic somewhere. I got to find them. But
oh man, when do you think that was?
That would have been.
Do you think that was
97 through?
Oh, dude, if your parents still have those cards, they could be worth like more than a car.
Damn, I gotta find those.
Yeah. If you find those, like the 90s Magic cards.
Yeah.
If you have the old. I mean, I don't know what your memory of those cards is, but there's these cards called Dual Lands. I'm a big Magic the Gathering
It's
player.
amazing. It's great. It's great.
I'm so excited about this project, but there's these original, the first couple of Magic sets from the 90s had these lands they're called dual lands.
Yeah, I got
now.
people talking about dual lands in my chat, like, oh, Matt probably has a full set of those.
Yeah. And back in the 90s, you would just casually open one up in every pack, and they're worth like $500 each now. Wizards of the Coast has this thing called the reserve list, which is a little. I'm not gonna unpack that, but basically, to preserve the sort of vintage collector's nature of these old cards, they've basically promised to not reprint any of those old cards.
Wow.
So the only way that you can get them, the only way that new cards are of those old copies are ever returning to the market is if somebody like you finds them in their mom's attic.
I gotta find them. Damn it.
Yeah.
I gotta find. That's so cool. Damn, I love that stuff. Well, I'm sure you know the term, but you are obviously an otaku. You know the term otaku? It means super fan.
I've heard the term.
Yeah,
I've
so
heard the term.
it used to be derogatory. It used to be like for like anime nerds, like in Japan. But it's since become like a complimentary. Like even my mom uses it for me. Like she calls me an otaku. So anything I get into that I like, I go so full, so hard into. And obviously you do the exact same thing. I think that's a really fun way to live because there's so many things to find in life. When you find those couple things that you're obsessed with, just like fully jump into them. I think that's always the best way to do it.
Well, one of these days, since we have struck off so well as fast friends, I'll have to show you how to play with the new cards.
Yes,
one of these
please,
days.
please do. That'd be awesome.
Because we could do that on stream sometime because of Magic Arena is free. It does have like a loot crate kind of a system where you have to buy packs of cards in order to get new cards and tokens that you spend or whatever. But yeah, you could make a free account and we could play anytime. And I got my Wizards rep messaging me about how excited she is that we're doing this live, and I'm explaining this stuff because I'm excited about it, but I'm sure that the brand is very excited about me talking about this as well.
Awesome.
But Wizards recently also partnered with this company called Spell Table, which is a company where it's a website that's specifically designed so that you can put a webcam above your desk, and then it'll scan the cards that are on your desk. And then you can play a game. Yeah, so it's like Zoom, but
That's
specifically.
so crazy.
Yeah, so you can have paper cards, and then you have a webcam above your desk, and then you can play games with people over the internet, just like a Zoom call. But you can actually click on someone's cards on their video feed, and the website will scan
That
the
is
card
so
image.
damn cool. That is so cool.
Yeah. So I play every now and then I play with Gavin Verhey, who's one of the lead card designers. There's this format called Commander, which is one of the most popular. Like Magic isn't just. I'm sorry, I'm getting so ahead of. I'm so excited.
No, it's good. This is awesome.
Rambling.
Learning.
Magic isn't just one game. It's kind of like how you can have like a deck of normal playing cards and you can play poker or rummy or solitaire. Like you can play all these different games with a regular deck of cards. It's the same thing with Magic the Gathering. There's a bunch of different types of games. So there's games that are like very competitive 1v1 poker duels that are 60 card competitive formats. And then there's more casual formats. And there's Commander, which is one of a couple of multiplayer formats. So it's like, have you ever played like Settlers of Catan or like a multiplayer board game, kind of like Monopoly or something? There's kind of an element of that where like I have my deck and you have your deck and two other people are also in the game, and it's a free for all. So we kind of do like some Game of Thrones kind of diplomacy to figure out like who's gonna attack who. And what I love about Commander is that you can build a commander deck with your friend. You can build commander decks with your friends of any power level, so you can play a super try hard, competitive poker meets chess 4-player free-for-all game, or you can put all your dinosaur cards in one deck and just see what happens. You know what I mean? I'll have to send you some cards sometime because I know that you do a lot of Japanese stuff in Trivium's music. Do you have like a favorite, I guess, like fiction archetype from like dragons, ninjas, samurai? Do you have like a favorite?
I'd say if I had to pick, dragons is always the place that I go to. Because it was first tattoo, last record. I feel like the symbolism is so fun.
Okay, let's dig in here. Let me show you this card. Let me see if I can screen share you.
So what we got to do is next thing we do with Wizards, we got to get down to Wizards HQ, and then you and I have a game there, and we like multicam film this thing, score the thing, all of that.
Okay, so I'm going to show you this just to show you how expansive Magic the Gathering is and how you can really dig in here. Let me see if I can share my screen here. So this is a card search engine for Magic the Gathering, and the way that Commander works is there's all these different colors, and what you would do is you would pick a legendary creature to be the commander of your commander deck. And it's like that, you always have access to your commander. It's like the leader of the rest of the cards in your deck. If you wanted to make a dragon deck, you could pick one of these legendary dragon cards to kind of be the card that you theme the rest of your deck around. And this is one of my favorite cards of all time, the Ur-Dragon, right? And this card is specifically designed to be the card that leads your dragons into battle. So all of the stuff on this card is specifically meant. So as long as the Ur-Dragon is in the command zone or on the battlefield, so it's specific to commander too. Other dragon spells cost 1 less to cast. And then whenever 1 or more dragons you control attack, draw that many cards, and then you may put a permanent card like a dragon from your hand onto the battlefield. But this card is absolutely insane. And what you could do is you could pick up a copy of this card and then start putting all of your other dragon cards into a deck with this guy. And there's all these great tools. You can look for dragons on a search engine like this and find the ones that you like and order them all on some kind of a card, like eBay for Magic cards, basically. Yeah. Or you could go to your friendly local game store and just ask the person at the counter, hey, do you got any dragon cards I can look at? And just pick some up. That's and awesome. Just kind of go on an adventure and see what cards you run into. And it's kind of like a fun scavenger hunt.
That's awesome.
And
that's so cool. It's so like this plays exactly what I've always been talking about, how the aesthetic of this, the aesthetic of Magic, the aesthetic of D&D, the aesthetic of Tolkien, the aesthetic of all this, it's so metal. It's always been metal. Yeah. And I love that so much because I've always said video games like this, like anytime you ever see D&D in something, ever, like you see it in Stranger Things, that's the roots of metal. That's the roots of getting into metal. And you get that, I get that. Like the people that I speak to that don't understand metal, it's not just something you turn on. It's not just radio you listen to on the drive to work or music you have on the background of the gym. It's something that it fuels your entire life. And it's the same thing as this, like the excitement of this, the excitement of like the art, like just seeing all that art. I hear what each card should sound like. And it makes me think of like, oh man, the guy that just did our last record should absolutely do cards like this for Wizards. I think they'd be so sick. Yeah. And it's so fun. It's so fun. Hopefully, because now that we've done the exact opposite of what we're both known for with Wizards, I think if we made a metal record for Wizards, that would be pretty sick. Like make like a full-on power metal record.
I'm hoping that I can talk them into it.
Let's do it. And I mean, if they're probably listening to us right now.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I don't want to get in trouble, but when I pitched this project with the Wizards team, it was right after this gothic horror card set had come out called Innistrad, which is basically like Victorian gothic Lovecraftian horror. And what I had originally pitched to them was like some rock metal, like gothic horror, kind of Evanescence kind of songs. There's so many opportunities and avenues that can be explored with this, and it's so exciting that Wizards is open to that now, because most brands don't think about those avenues, and it shows that, you know, this is a step into the future, because already there are YouTube channels that are complete, like there's musicians where their entire career and all, like they're paying their bills by making unofficial D&D bard songs. And that's their whole channel.
That's incredible.
You know, like they're getting like bajillions of views, literally just like writing these new tavern shanties that are specifically based on their D&D campaigns with their friends. Have you heard of the band Unleash the Archers?
Yeah.
Their singer was in this little side project where they all cosplayed as Magic the Gathering characters.
That's amazing. Grant's a Twitch streamer as well. I see him pop in here a lot. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. When you're mentioning this stuff, like I pictured like what I think the move would be if we ever were able to write like what does the metal Wizards Magic sound like, pitch that to like Vakken Open Air and Bloodstock and have that actually play live, because like in Europe is where this thing would really translate. Like in America it'd be clubs, but we like if you partner up Wizards with Vakken and have this played in there, because they've got different areas at Vakken. Vakken is basically like, have you been to Vakken before?
I have not.
It is
not
like
been to Europe
the
yet.
metalheads Disney. Like you go down there and they've got like Future World, they've got Medieval World, they've got all these different things. Then they've got just every single great metal band ever playing there that relies on nothing mainstream to have to bring people in, because it always just sells out regardless. But having that thing played with like full-on action of, you know, just like in a Monomar show, having people battling on stage during these songs and all these intense pyro shows, like I could see that killing in Europe, like absolutely killing in Europe. Like,
man,
metal
and
theme.
It's one of those things where like It's fascinating to me, as like we mentioned before, that you and I have kind of needed to learn how to do everything ourselves, being content creators, and a lot of musicians don't always think about the marketing side of a lot of this stuff. I'm not always happy about how much I think about marketing out of necessity, being a content creator, but because I have needed to think about marketing to keep my own career alive, I've thought a lot about like you're saying, the intersection between video game escapism and fantasy, the resurgence of fantasy, and like D&D is more popular than it ever has been. Like older people sometimes like have this perception of D&D like it was this silly thing that kids did in the 90s, but no, like D&D is bigger than has ever been in history. Magic the Gathering, I believe, just had its most profitable year in history.
That's so cool.
This is like kids love this stuff. Adults love this stuff, and it's not this dichotomy of like cool kids listen to Billie Eilish and Post Malone. Post Malone also
I saw the
plays
picture.
Magic.
Yeah, I saw the picture.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
it's not this like the traditional United States marketing world tends to have this perspective of it's like a binary of like cool and modern versus fantasy stuff that isn't hip, and a lot of brands always kind of are scared to just embrace, like, yeah, sword fighting and dragons.
Hell
and
yes.
It's gonna be
Dude, I mean, look
awesome,
at Amon Amarth does like 10,000 people a night across Europe.
Yeah.
Like, they've always been one of my favorite bands in the world. I remember one of our earliest tours ever. It was Amon Amarth opening, us direct support, and Children of Bodom headlining in like small clubs.
Wow.
And I was like, this is incredible. Like, I wouldn't exist without Amon Amarth. I wouldn't exist without Children of Bodom. But now finally, like, the U.S. sees what I've seen since the beginning, and now they're a massive band here. I think that it's not just the intersection of those two things that you mentioned, like fantasy and like D&D and magic and games, but it's those two and then metal on top. Like, those three things I've always felt are so much so for the outsider, which to a degree, like, I want to let more people in. Like, I'm always all about exposing people like, hey, this is what metal is. This is what our band does. If you love it, you should come on in, because it's a lifelong, amazing community. But if you're not into it, that's also kind of what the backbone of it is a bit as well. Like, all right, this is for the people that couldn't find the other things, that didn't blend with the traditional sports, the traditional bands that we're supposed to like, but we fell in love with something that we discovered and were able to really dig into. So I think there is so much. So that's ever since like I started streaming on Twitch, I was like, I need to expose more metal to gamers. I kept thinking every gamer would have been into metal. But I talked to several streamers that were really big, and I remember I was playing with Dakotas, who's still a good buddy of mine, incredible Fortnite streamer, and I was telling him about my band, and he's like, I'm not too familiar with metal. He's like, is it mostly just the screaming stuff? So I showed him a couple songs I figured he'd like based off the indie bands he liked, and he's like, oh, this is cool stuff. And then he's like, you kind of have to open people's ears a little bit. And it's just been so exciting to be able to bring that into here. The same thing with what you're doing with your audience, but those intersections of that triumvirate, the holy triumvirate, that is such an amazing thing. And it's cool that we could play around with it as well. We get to jump in and make an electronic kind of chill record that also has some really cool elements of the heaviness, and then maybe exposes people with the heaviness with the screaming section of the one song with the 8-string guitars, and then we could branch off and be like, hey, this is what we also do. It's really cool. It's really exciting. Like, and I've said a lot, I'm going to say it again, like, this is just such a fun thing, and I'm so happy you hit me up about this, because I've always just
so
wanted
happy.
Yeah, it's amazing,
about
man.
this.
Yeah, it's just we're both geeking out, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so exciting, man. Like, piggybacking off of what you said, like there's so many intersections, and it's cool because I kind of had the realization recently that, like, coming full circle back to the beginning of this conversation, guys like you and I who are kind of like figuring out how to do it all ourselves, we're the ones to run with that intersection, because the rest of the music industry and the rest of the marketing world is sometimes a little slow to pick up on these things. And why not? Like, why can't a bunch of independent musicians just, make an amazing electronic album based on the rich lore of Magic the Gathering in a month? Like, there's nothing stopping us other than the decision to do that. And not only do I feel like the United States rock and metal scene kind of hasn't yet woken up to the fact that kids like fantasy and World of Warcraft and escapism and D&D, and they want music that's about sword fighting instead of bar fighting. Not only does the world have some waking up to do in that regard, which maybe that's us. Maybe that's
I
projects like this.
I very much think so. Because if you look at American festivals, like I don't want to be a naysayer here. Like I know people are very excited. We've got so many of them, but it's all the same bands that are still all the same bands that have been on the radio since the mid to late '90s, and it's only those bands really that are headlining these rock festivals. And there's no new space or breathing room being given to these incredible new slews of metal bands or these bands doing something different. I hope, and I see it spilling over here a little bit more. So yeah, I do believe that we have to be the change that we want to see. I don't know if I'm paraphrasing. I don't know who said the original quote. Definitely one of the things that I've seen with a lot of musicians that I've talked to is, and this isn't a knock on all of them, this is a knock on some of them. I remember we were touring with a band who they were headlining, and the guitar player, we were one of his favorite bands in the world. I was like, hey man, thank you so much. He was asking me about guitar. I was like, you know what? Let's do lessons every day of this tour. I was like, I'll have a rig set up for you backstage. I'll give you guitar lessons every single day. I'm ready. I've got our 2 rigs set up. I'm sitting there looking at my watch. Where you at, man? 3 hours later, I get a text back. He's like, dude, I just can't practice on tour. I'm like, okay, cool. So that is definitely one of the big problems, like with the underlying, like even young musicians, maybe older musicians too. I feel like musicians sometimes, they're not hungry enough and they don't want to work as hard as content creators do and have to. Content creators work their asses off. It's insane how hard they work because they have to do everything on their own. Learn to do video editing and music and play the music and write the music and the marketing themselves. And I love that so much. I love that attitude. You know, that's the hunger of being a band in the first place all over time, like starting a band, getting in the garage together with your friends and running the first batch of songs. And that's the ethos that we have in our band. But I feel like it's so cool to meet another musician that came from the, you know, I believe you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you, judging by your story, you started from content creation and have been working into music. I feel like I started music and been working into content creation. So again, it's the intersections that we were talking about. And I think that because both of us understand both worlds from having started in one and shifted into both, it's just really exciting stuff. And,
it's interesting that you say that because it's like, I don't think a lot of people realize how big of a paradigm shift this is with the internet and with content creation, because when like I'm like the last generation that remembers pre-internet. You know, like I'm like, you know, guys around my age, we grew up and we remember when our parents still had dial-up internet and
I remember the sound.
The reason I bring that up is because there was no YouTube musician or Twitch streamer when I was first starting my first high school band. So when I graduated high school, my vision of how I needed to succeed as a musician was to do what you did. Find a record label, find a touring agency, and get on the road and put out albums once a year, the same as bands always have since, you know, the beginning of time. And my perception of if I want to make it, I have to jump through these hoops and go through these gatekeepers out of frustration alone of not succeeding at those things. I kind of tried to shove open all these other doors, and I like kind of, you know, desperately tried to learn marketing so I didn't have to have somebody else do it for me. Desperately learning video editing so I didn't have to have, I mean, you know how much music videos cost in the old world music, like 10 grand minimum or something for like a major label music video. Like I didn't have that kind of money, so I'm learning how to edit videos. I'm learning how cameras work. And at the time, I thought that I was failing because I wasn't jumping through the hoops of getting a record label and going on tour. But that ended up such a powerful thing because now there's nothing stopping me ever, you know? And to me, that's so powerful and so empowering to musicians because the gates are open. There's no more gatekeepers anymore. If you want to blow up singing in your bathroom on an iPhone on TikTok, do it. You could do that today. If you want to be the first person to make a comprehensive hurdy-gurdy, video essay on live on Twitch and post it to YouTube, that could be you. Like there's nothing stopping anybody anymore. So the accessibility is better than it ever has been. The democratization of the music industry. The metal scene has always been usually a little bit better about this because, like you said, metal has always kind of been about the outsider. But much of the music industry is vicious about if you don't look a certain way, if you're not marketable, then if you're too old, if you don't have a high enough voice, if you're not marketable in any way, you're out. you're never going to make it through those hoops because the touring agent won't sign you, the record label won't sign you, the producer won't work with you unless they feel that you're marketable in the traditional sense. And it's so amazing how all of these intersections of nerd culture, fantasy fiction, content creation, internet accessibility, and heavy metal are all creating this world where people can get lifted up by this better than ever before. And I'm just so excited about that. I'm so stoked.
What an incredibly motivating thing for people to hear. That's amazing. Yeah, it's nuts too. It's like the same. I didn't know this either, but the same like positivity I always naturally try to put out there. You do the same. So it's like, I want nothing more, and you already are. I just want nothing more than to see you just keep succeeding and you take over. You specifically, because you deserve it. Because you're talented and you're a good person. And man, I'm thankful that we got to do this. But I'm really thankful we were able to connect and now see where we can go from here. Like it's awesome to know everyone in here is freaking out how awesome you are, and I just want everyone to know that you're super talented and an amazing person.
Before I let you stroke my ego that much, I want to take this opportunity to talk about how amazing all of the rest of these musicians on this project are, some of which you've worked with. The first one that I want to shout out, Genuine Music, is someone that came onto my radar, and as soon as Wizards of the Coast told me that they wanted to do electronic synthwave music for this Kamigawa project, I immediately was like, we need to talk to Genuine. He's a ghost producer for content creators. Usually, is like his full-time gig is like when like a singer on the internet needs a dubstep beat or an electronic beat, they'll hit up Genuine. Wow. So he's kind of like, he has this really cool niche where he's producing the beats that end up in these viral videos that other people are making. But he's such a talented dubstep EDM producer. He's amazing. He's like, I think 3 or 5 years younger than I am. Really an amazing producer. Super dedicated, super hardworking guy. And he made like 4 beats on this album that ended up turning into these gorgeous Japanese folk-inspired EDM songs. We've got Insane in the Rain music. Carlos, who's one of the best jazz musicians on YouTube, who just decided to take a step back from making YouTube videos to start trying to score video games and compose for video games. We have Trey Watson, who was just involved with the Pentakill project that Riot Games did, who you worked with on their track. We have Amy Waters, who makes some of the most beautiful lo-fi music, underground lo-fi ambient hip hop music. We have who else do we got here that I'm spacing because I did not get.
You've also been working your butt off.
Sleep.
Michelle Hafey, my sister.
Yes, your sister is on this project.
She's been on YouTube for a long time. Always been working and always been slugging away. And I've always encouraged. I'm like, Michelle, you have the chops, you've got the talent, you've got the everything to really blow this up. Just like we talked about.
Your sister
content
came
creators.
in clutch on this project. We hit up your sister pretty late in the project because we needed one more singer, and she absolutely slayed it, and it turned out so cool.
She's awesome. She's awesome. She needs to go for it.
The other people we've got on this project, we've got Zach and Tomoko, who are some of the leading experts on Japanese folk instruments in our generation here in America. They've been studying Japanese folk instruments their entire lives. They've done music for like Super Smash Bros. And Street Fighter and stuff like that. And Caleb Hiles, amazing singer, good friend of mine. I think that's everybody.
Man, I can't wait to hear this whole thing. I've only heard the songs I'm involved with, or the ones you've shown me, so I can't wait. This is so cool.
I can maybe leak it to you tonight.
Please do. Please do. I'd love to hear this, man. I'd love to hear this. Well, I would be curious too, just to see where this goes. Like, I can't wait to show this off. It's funny, right when I posted about this across all my socials, there were so many people that said, well, I used to play competitive Magic, and I've been collecting since this age. It's so cool to see that, just like I've always said, like I've been introduced to things like D&D, Magic, Elder Scrolls, World of Warcraft, FPS shooter, maybe not FPS shooter so much, but anytime there's like a lore that stems from Tolkien, that stems from that world, I'm like, I guarantee there's metalheads in there. There needs to be, because that's what that says. That's what that says and sounds to me when I see those things. Absolutely amazing, man. Jonathan, thank you so much for hitting me up that day randomly, taking a chance on me. It's so cool to meet the counterpart. Just like I said, we both came from opposite worlds, coming into cross sections, and it's great to talk to someone that gets it entirely. Because there are days I'm like, man, do people get what I'm feeling today? But you understand it because we both do it, and I really
Thank
love
you
the
so much,
positivity
man.
that you exude and that you put out, and it's amazing, man. Thank you so much. Please, let's stay in touch every step of the way,
course.
and I can't wait to
Of
see.
course.
I can't wait to see everyone's reactions to the music that you
Yeah.
produced. Jonathan produced this whole thing, put all the videos together, put this whole team together, wrangled everybody. It's truly amazing, man.
I'm so excited, man. And thank you. I'm seeing some Wizards of the Coast team members in the chat
Yeah.
whose usernames I recognize. So thank you to the people in the chat from Wizards of the Coast.
Thank you so much.
And to Wizards of the Coast, of course, for trusting us to make some art for you guys. This has been an absolute honor, absolute pleasure. I hope that we can do this more in the future.
Let's do it.
My heart is full. I'm so excited. And in 3 days, the first singles come out from this album.
Hell yes.
With one of the tracks that I did, and then a bunch of the tracks that you and I did, I believe, are all coming out on the 14th. And then the full album drops on the 18th, and it will be available on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, Pandora, Deezer. You can listen to all of these songs to your heart's content.
Do it.
Through the power of the internet.
Oh, yes. Awesome. Jonathan, thank you so much, my friend. Please stay in touch.
Yes.
Absolute pleasure.
You as well.
Thank you so much,
I'm
my
so
friend.
excited.
Heck yes.
Talk to you later.
Take care. See you soon.